The Shameless Picture Show is part of the Cinepunks Network. If you like the Shameless Picture Show and you want to hear other great shows like it, make sure you check out the Cinepunks Network. You can find them at www.cinepunks.com. That's CINEPUNX. There's other great shows such as Cinepunks. There's The Carnage Report, Cinema Smorgasbord, Fat Girl Hacks, Loud, Fast, Philly, Tomb of Ideas, and Twitch of the Death Nerve, and so much more. If you like punk rock and you like movies, make sure to go to www.cinepunks.com. And let's not forget the sponsors for the Cinepunks Network. We have the Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. They are the premier screen printer of the Lehigh Valley with service to the whole country, professional and personable in a way that only a DIY business can be. They also have ridiculously low prices for whatever your screen printing needs may be. You can visit them online at xlvacx.com. That's xlvacx.com. Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. We also have the Essex Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted to order. They have high quality beans, bunch of apparel, and tea available. They are bringing high quality coffee to the masses without the pretentiousness. Use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. You can visit them at www.essexcoffeeroasters.com. That's ESSEX, coffeeroasters.com. Once again, use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. Hey, do you like weird movies? You do? Have you heard of Vinegar Syndrome? Find them online at www.vinegarsyndrome.com. Vinegar Syndrome is one of the leading exploitation and grindhouse preservation and distribution companies in the world. They've got a simple 3-step process that I call the 3 R's: recover, restore, and release. Vinegar Syndrome has an amazingly large film archive consisting of thousands of 35 and 16mm negatives and prints, and are actively finding films that are underappreciated, undervalued, and underseen. So many of their releases have never seen the light of day since VHS, and they're restoring them to all their glory. Some of these films do not have the right to look as good as they do, but they do. I'm looking at you, corpse grinders. Vinegar Syndrome has their own method of restoration where their goal is to recreate the theatrical experience as best as they can. With their own in-house lab, they scan, color grade, and restore each title personally. You'll never see any grain reduction and digital trickery on their discs. Vinegar Syndrome is a very exciting label, and we're proud to have them as a sponsor. They've been with us since the beginning, and we love them for it. Check out their website today and pick up your copies of Rudy Ray Moore's Dolomite films, just in time for the new Netflix movie Dolomite Is My Name, starring Eddie Murphy. Also available is Hell Comes to Frogtown, starring Rowdy Roddy Piper, James Hong's The Vineyard, Pledge Night, Lust in the Dust, starring Divine, Putney Swope, the Amityville Cursed Collection, and much, much more. Also, don't forget to pre-order your copy of Tammy and the T-Rex in glorious 4K Ultra High Definition or Blu-ray, and the Angel Collection. Once again, be sure to visit them at www.vinegarsyndrome.com and grab yourself something cool. Let them know your good friend Michael sent you.
I'm gonna rock this shotgun up his motherfucking
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, friend. I'm here to remind you today that after you finish listening to this episode, you can tune in to Optimism Vaccine, the only podcast on the internet dedicated to celebrating your guilty pleasures and digging through the grimy couch cushions of popular culture to pull out unheralded classics and forgotten trash every week from every era of cinema. From Hong Kong action to psychotronic Italian horror, salacious smut, whatever Whoopi Goldberg's up to, visit OptimismVaccine.com to learn more. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts today.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shameless Picture Show. I am your host, Michael Viers, and today I'm thrilled to have three amazing guests with me. First up, our good friend Matt Harding, the regional warrior for Severin Films. If you've attended a convention where Severin had a table, chances are you've seen Matt there sharing great movies and creating unforgettable experiences. But that's not all. Joining us as well is William Morris and John Dickson from the Oscarbate Collective and podcast. Their mission is to introduce movie lovers to films that haven't received their fair share of recognition or remain elusive in the home video market. With a combined 15 years of experience in the film industry, John and William are dedicated freelance film programmers, writers, and editors. So, why are they all here today? What connects these three? The answer is their shared passion for Jess Franco. They're here to celebrate that passion through Francomania, an ongoing tour dedicated to the master filmmaker's work. The Oscarbate Film Collective, along with the enthusiastic support of Matt Harding and his colleagues at Severin Films, have spent the last couple of years delving into the depths of Franco's extensive filmography to uncover what makes him such a unique and compelling filmmaker worthy of celebration. Welcome to the show, guys.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Michael.
So, you're very welcome. So, like I said, I want to talk about Oscarbate Collective and podcast. I want to talk about Francomania. Walk me through this. What came first? Did the collective / podcast come first? Did Francomania come first? Kind of walk me through. Because I'll admit, I'm a newer fan. I just started listening to your podcast, and I didn't heard about Francomania until Matt started telling me about it. So, let's talk about that a little bit.
Which came first?
Yeah.
I think Francomania has always been there.
Yeah,
they were just taking it up a notch.
It's a real chicken and egg situation.
Oscarbate, you guys formed before we talked about Francomania, so you talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we started doing this the Oscarbate thing at about the end of the pandemic because we were bored and we didn't have anything to do, so we started doing it, and we just started doing things that eventually got us shows in the city of Chicago. We started a series that we had done previously in LA when Will was living in LA with our colleague Mike Perry of the Hollywood Entertainment Group. And we did this thing called Highs and Lows that got brought to Chicago. We started doing that. We did on our show, we covered every Robert Zemeckis movie, and we got a Robert Zemeckis retrospective out of that. So we were like, maybe we can turn this stupid idea into money and getting to show movies places. And so we just kept kind of going with it, and we just wanted to do something that we felt like was worthy of a deep dive, that wasn't just a filmmaker with a really big filmography that you could check all the boxes off of. That just seemed boring. This was more like, this is a filmmaker who is severely underrated in our opinion, or people have a different opinion of him than maybe what he really puts out there with his work. And so we thought, well, this would be really cool to go through everything he did and start figuring out what makes a filmmaker so special, who the main selling point and the most difficult part of his filmography is seeing it all in context, because that changed everything in our entire perceptions of Franco. And we wouldn't recommend watching that many movies as quickly as we did, but it was a pretty unique experience, and it gave us a chance to see things by him that we hadn't seen, or even give things a second look. So
and I
think the point that John is saying with watching his entire filmography, there's a number involved in that. I mean, this is not 30, 40 movies. This is 186?
187 right now that are possible to see. There are still some that are lost and that we lustily look forward to someone discovering. But as of right now, we watched 187 for this.
So just that number itself alone, I mean, it's astronomical. I mean, it's fantastic. So there's got to be something within his work that's got to be of interest to somebody.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The passion of the way that he made these films and what went into making those films should be celebrated.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of it too is, you know, we were definitely both big fans before we did this. You know, and the writing was on the wall, because I was remembering the other day, the first birthday once I moved out here that John had, I gave him a copy of Severin's release of Black Boots Leather Whip for his birthday, because he hadn't seen that one yet. And it was shortly
Best
after
birthday
that.
ever.
Yeah, but it was shortly after that he started texting me and being like, "Oh yeah, no, I can't stop. Let's do this." And then we decided to follow Stephen Thrower's production order of the films, because part of the like fuckery with Franco's filmography is that so many of them came out years after they were made, or never at all, or whatever. So if you look like at IMDb or Letterboxd, the dates are wrong usually. And I think when we then went through and watched everything actually in the correct order that they were being made, at the end of it, yes, we were exhausted, but more than anything, we were like, this guy is so important and so special in the world of film history, and like deserves to be talked about and given his place. Because I think just seeing it actually as it was happening really made us even more insane for him.
Yeah, we couldn't decide if watching all of them was a badge of honor or a cry for mental health. But
both.
There's a fine line. I mean, there's a fine line that we walk. So, Michael, I could just go and tell you the Severin aspect of it. So, Severin does a lot of events. At theaters around Chicago. Music Box being kind of our home away from home. It's one of my favorite places on earth. So I love the Music Box. Will and I were talking. We've been friends. We've done this a long time together. And then I said, "That's amazing. Let's Severin get involved in it, and let's kick it up a notch and try and get a Franco movie shown with an audience in every state in America." So
I think that's a great goal, because Jess Franco is one of those filmmakers that, just as a horror fan growing up, he was always a name that I was very familiar with. And I can only speak from my experiences, but he was very inaccessible for a very long time, unless you just had a really fucking groovy video store in your town. His stuff wasn't always easy to find. It wasn't until companies like Severin started putting this stuff out that you could even see it in a good fashion. So I think that's kind of why
for us in the 90s, video stores, it was, I mean, if we knew somebody that worked at a video store, we would request certain titles, so it was easier for us to get those titles and obtain those titles. But you're right, it wasn't a name that you would see. It wouldn't be like a Wes Craven's newest movie or anything like that. So you would you'd get some of the basic titles some of his popular known titles, you know, Bloody Moon, Vampire's Lesbos, Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein was in a pretty bad shape that was traded around for the longest time before it got its, you know, good treatment. But again, watching his movies and then looking to see how many there were and researching that's kind of the passion that was driven behind the three of us and wanting to do Francomania.
Yeah, and in addition to those titles, like the great titles like Bloody Moon and Vampiros Lesbos being the available ones, there were also titles like Oasis of the Zombies, and the Christopher Lee Count Dracula, which I think looks better now when you go through more of Franco's films. You see that kind of flawed production he infamously had on that, and you can appreciate it a little bit more. But stuff like Oasis of the Zombies, you know, I don't know where we're going to find the biggest Oasis of the Zombies defender out there. But, like, you know, you make that many films, you're not going to hit all of them. So, like, it was doing this was kind of even more of a, like, temperature check or an investigation into why his reputation got the way it was, because, you know, people see him as a hack or they see him as inferior to proper filmmaking. I mean, you have like a legend, Chicago legend like Jonathan Rosenbaum declaring him one of the most feeble, unimaginative, lame directors ever. And listen, Jonathan, I just say chill on the nugs a little bit, put the pipe down. Okay.
Love you, Jonathan.
I know you love to hit that shit hard, but like, you know,
and a lot of people go into his movies thinking that it's just going to be a horror filmmaker because some of his better known work is horror.
Yeah,
and he's done a movie in every genre. He's made up genres. You know, like it's
yeah, that's the.
I think I remember reading about him too, was that he was a workaholic in a lot of ways, and it was not uncommon for him to be doing anywhere from 4 to 6 movies a year, if not more. And I think even Stephen Thrower said on the disc for the film that we're going to be talking about, sometimes his biggest problem is that he'd be in the middle of one film thinking about what's coming next, just because he loved to work and he just loved to just knock this shit out. And he's got passion.
Yeah, he's got.
And when we all get together and we plan this and we talk about it, we're exactly the same way. We're very passionate about it. We talk about it. We're open about it. We're in the middle of doing an event and we're planning the next event, or we're on our phones and we're talking sending pictures and things like that. So definitely his passion wears off on us. So we definitely are Francomania all the way.
Yeah, I mean, his passion is probably the secret to everything, because like one thing we noticed is like seeing the more expensive productions that he got, like Justine or Jack the Ripper. Those are the ones that really, going through them all, struck us as the least impressive. I mean, they still have their bright points, but like there's something in that manic, like I'm moving on to the next one, like the flow of his ideas is this like constant speed of like output that I don't think even he could keep up with. And I think that had a lot to do with him being a jazz player before this. Because I think when you're a filmmaker who's not so concerned with like narrative beats and really developing characters, and you're way more interested in like the spectacle, right? Like the idea of the fantastique captured on camera, the music, the look, the mood. I mean, maybe that just allowed him, like a musician, to be able to see it differently, because those movies do, like a lot of Italian genre cinema, like horror especially, like the narrative is just right out the window in favor of cinema, images and sound kind of working together to create, you know, usually very dreamy atmospheres that he's able to conjure. And I think that's why he does it so specifically, and why you go to his movies looking for a very specific flavor.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Definitely get that.
Yeah, and his stuff too is he keeps it like it can be reused. So if he's not happy with one of the films that came out, he would use bits and pieces of that film and shoot another storyline, because he would already have establishing shots and introductions and things like that. So he'd work in the middle, work in the ending. So he respected it. He respected the art form, and he was able to go back and kind of revisit and reflect on it, and then turn it into something else entirely. So with bits and pieces of other movies, of course.
Yeah, it's like the idiom that I think it was I think the French film director Jean Renoir said, that a filmmaker, if you're an auteur in the sense, a filmmaker really only makes 4 or 5 films over their entire career. Yeah. And I think that's very true with Jess. And that's not just like, recycling things in a lazy manner. He, like Fritz Lang, a contemporary of his, or not really contemporary, but an influence on him, who quite liked Franco, it's very similar. It's just the exploring of these themes over and over again, because he's obsessed with whatever ideas he's trying to get at. So,
and I think when you have that kind of obsessive brain, and this is just a thought because I always have an obsessive brain, but when you have that obsessive brain and you're working on something and you're into it, you always have a part of that brain that's still looking forward to the next project and what you can do with that next project.
So when Francomania began,
he's the best. He really is. Like, Jess Franco's the best.
I'm excited to delve more into his filmography. So if I'm understanding the timeline correctly, William and John, you guys just started by watching all of his films.
Yeah.
And then Francomania came from that. So with Francomania, how do you decide per city what you're going to show? Because if I remember reading correctly, isn't it you don't normally announce the films ahead of time, or do you?
It depends on the show if we're announcing them ahead of time. It differs every city. Basically, I think one of our goals is to talk to people about what, you know, folks are interested in their local scenes, and you know, what they can hang with, what they don't want to hang with, that kind of thing. And then we try to tailor, you know, as much as we can, because one of the gifts of Franco with this many movies is that, right, we have an endless well to choose from, and we can kind of make it perfect. Well, hopefully we try to make it perfect for each spot we go to. But the show I imagine you're talking about, we did just do a blind marathon where it was 8 films not announced at all in New York City. Otherwise, thus far, we've announced all of them in advance. But that was a hell of a show.
So yeah, Will was saying there, some of it cut out, that we did a 15-hour marathon. Yes, 8 films. It was crazy. We didn't sleep very well. We had to catch a flight that night, so we just stayed up all night. It added to the delirium of the evening. In regards to picking this, it was very like, we literally tried to think how we got, like, if you were an unsuspecting person, and you've not seen any Franco, what would be a way that you could get on board the fastest and just ride a journey straight through his filmography within 8 films? Not go all the way, but
to give you a nice selection.
Yeah, exactly. So like we started with a film that we quite love called The Girl from Rio, which is his kind of take on like the spy genre that was popular in the 60s, like Danger Diabolique, stuff like that. But this was a film that we thought really like sets a groundwork. It's accessible while having all these kind of hazy, dreamy elements that he's able to put in. We followed that with Eugenie, her journey into perversion, which I've always considered, and I know Will has too, like the perfect gateway drug into Franco, because it's like you got your Christopher Lee, but then there's also a weird ass story that starts really percolating within his filmography, and the visuals of that film are unlike any that have probably ever been shot before. So, you know, we just kind of started there. We were like, these are 2 really good ways to start. Then how do we fill in the rest of it? Like, what are people going to respond to? What's too hard? I mean, we have to constantly check ourselves. Or like, are we pushing people off the deep end too much? Like, you know, and we still, I have those regrets with every screening we do. I'm like, oh God, did we go too hard right there? Should we have like eased people? But it's just hard when you're dealing with representing a filmmaker with such a mammoth filmography. There is a lot of stress, I feel like, that goes into it, because we just want to make sure we give the right representation and don't, you know, put someone in, like, we always want to show like Macumba Sexual first, but then we're like, yeah, but see, we've seen them all. So like, if you go into Macumba, you might be a little confused and completely thrown off.
So it's like when, yeah. I don't want to interrupt, but when Francomania started, was it October? I can look at October 10th last year.
Yeah,
23, and we started it with one of his well-known ones, one that was released by Severin, one that was part of the Video Nasties list. So we started with Bloody Moon, and we rented out the small theater at the Music Box, which seats, correct me if I'm 90, 70? 70, and sold that out. And then from there, we decided to try some other things. And, you know, we've had some that we've had 3 or 4 people in attendance, and we've had ones where, you know, we have over 500 people in attendance. So,
you're referring to the one in the pizza parlor.
Yeah. So we did an after show, brought a little screen, we put it up. It was one of the most awkward movie going experiences ever. We gave goodie bags out. We ordered pizzas, but we loved it. I mean, whatever, it was fun. But going from there, and then we went to Milwaukee, I think. Let me bring up this. We could go off it. We went to Milwaukee, Faceless. We've shown Stray Cat down in Missouri, right?
I'm bummed I missed the one in Milwaukee. I hate that.
The X-Ray Arcade, we were there around Christmas time. We had themed drinks for Faceless and things like that. So, it
really wasn't until Vampiros Lesbos though that it really
really took off. And was that the next one?
That was the next one.
You had the Davis. You guys did Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein in March.
Yeah, which was really cool. That actually did really well for a movie.
Okay, so Vampiros Lesbos we did after Dante's Tavern when we had the 2 people in attendance. We went from 2 to 500. So that's when we all like looked at each other and we were just like, dang. Okay, so it's going to take a well-known Franco movie to get the people out, right? So just like any religion, we're going to have to try and show off the best parts of his Bible to get people in.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, get people interested, and then you can start showing the weird stuff.
And then have the table set up and do an introduction and a talk, and then be available afterwards to answer questions and do recommendations.
Yeah.
So as they just got back earlier this week, we've done 15 Francomania tour stuff.
Yeah.
And we started October 10th, 23.
Yeah.
There's more planned. So, I mean, it's not like it started from something, and we've had really good ones. We've had, some low attendance ones, but we've gone from huge old theaters to micro cinemas to the back of a pizza parlor. So, like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very
definitely.
cool.
I mean, I just want to say Vampiros Lesbos was like, when we showed that was kind of the idea of like, we saw probably more of a pathway to do this. Cause like I said, we tried, Faceless and Mansion of the Living Dead. That was the example. It's like kind of what we were saying. It's like, maybe you don't start there because people don't know how to make anything out of those movies if you're not a fan.
Yeah.
So when Vampiros Lesbos happened, we kind of figured out this is a bit of a Candyland game board where it's like, we're going to keep progressing, but we might hit the muck monster. We might have to go back to the start.
Yeah, like Chutes and Ladders. Like we hit on something and we got to fall back. And we get mad and just break it. No, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Not how it's supposed to be.
All right, so I got one more question, and then you could promote some of the upcoming events, and we can move on to the movie. So my last question about Francomania, since this is, it seems like it's going very well for you guys. It's still kind of a relatively new thing for you. I didn't realize it had only just started in October of last year. What is where would you like to see Francomania go? What is your dream for this adventure, this project of yours?
Everywhere.
Spain is the big dream. That would be the ultimate at the end. If we could go after shit is blowing up, we can go back to where Sweet Boy came from and do an amazing show out there and get Pedro Almodovar, who also loves him, to come and celebrate with us.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm gonna write that down in my book, because if it's in the book, it comes true.
Yeah, we would love to go international. I mean, given that he's such a trans European filmmaker, like he's his movies, they either get he either finds money from Spain or France or Germany,
wherever he can get it.
And people always think like, oh, we came into the Spanish movie, why is it in German? And it's like, well, that's where the money went. That's the cut that was available. I mean, so it would be cool to see how it plays over there. But as far as the U.S., if we can go to Hawaii with some Franco, that'd be really clutch. I'd love to get on a beach. And,
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I mean, just everywhere, because the more we've been doing it, the more we get hit up from people who just keep saying, why, when's it coming my way? So we want to hit everything. We've talked about Alaska, and that'll probably be in a barn somewhere or something, but we got to hit Alaska too.
Yeah.
Alaska's a cool place. I was just there last year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The goal for me with Francomania is every 50 state with an audience.
Okay.
Doesn't matter the size of the audience.
Even if it's 2 people at a pizzeria.
2 people. We'll invite some people in and get warm in our barn in Alaska. Come on in.
We get the Palins to show up.
Yeah, that is definitely my personal goal. I think that the goal of all of us is to invite people to, celebrate Franco, sell Blu-rays along the way, get more people interested and involved. We plan each trip, not just one movie theater. We try and get record stores and video stores and do pop-ups. We try to do 1 or 2 events instead of just one movie. So we try and fill it up. So I just recently got back from a little bit of time in Vermont, and I went and looked at a theater there, which has a bar attached to it and a hotel, so we just have to make an event, and you go out and introduce yourself to people out there and network and things like that. So definitely 50 states, as many Franco movies that we possibly can show, for sure. And then if we get that, we'll definitely go international with it too. That would be awesome.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. So what are some of the events you got coming up?
All right, let's see.
Here, Will, since you're cutting out, we cannot lose a date on here.
I got it. I have it listed right here. I can read.
You guys are so prepared. I love it.
Right now. So we are looking at September 6th through the 8th. We will be in Topeka, Kansas, at the Slash and Bash Film Festival.
Cool,
we'll be showing a couple Franco movies and having discussion about Franco there. We're looking at September 16th. There's a whole bunch of stuff in Los Angeles area around that time.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Everything may not be confirmed or yet, but definitely September 16th through what did you guys plan? The 18th, the 20th. Okay.
Yeah, our 16th show is at. Let me just try to ramble these off real quick. The 16th show, is at
Los Feliz 3.
That's right, Los Feliz 3. We got Vampiros Lesbos at Los Feliz 3 with Cinematic Void. Tuesday is
Brain Dead Studios.
We got Brain Dead Studios. I don't think that's announced yet, but we have a double that's going to happen there. That's very cool. Wednesday's Whammy. We're doing
Whammy.
Right, Whammy, baby. We're doing the SOV Franco, so we're dipping into 2000s era Franco. I don't know if we can say what that is yet, but that's going to be a cool one because it's there's an Inland Empire-esque vibe to the one that we are wanting to show. So we're pretty pumped about that. Thursday, chill day. Friday, the 20th, I think is that's the Acropolis 2200, and we are going to be finally unloading one we've been dying to unload, which is Venus and Furs. One of the seminal films of his.
Love Venus and Furs, dude.
Everyone, come out. Everyone loves Venus and Furs. It's too good. And then we're going to do that as a double with a very underrated one, kind of a classier one for him called The Other Side of the Mirror.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's when we get the Los Angeles dates. Matt, continue.
September 20th. It's
my birthday.
It's not a Franco movie, but we're going to have director Kansas Bowling showing her movie, Cuddly Toys. And then she picked out a Severin film that she wants to watch, and it's her favorite, Lucio Fulci's Devil's Honey.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah, so she will be at the Skyline Drive-In at Shelbyville, Indiana. The following day will be a Dusk Till Dawn 24-hour Severin Sleepover Part 2. And we will be showing Jess Franco's She Killed in Ecstasy. And then there'll be some independent filmmakers and stuff showing some movies in between Severin movies. So check that out at the Skyline Drive-In. It's also on the Severin website. There's a whole events calendar there as well. So that's September. And then October will be crazy, and we'll be doing a whole bunch of stuff in October. Erie Horror Fest, October 4th and 5th. And then we're planning something down in St. Louis at Webster University. So check out the Severin website or Oscarbate stuff on the social medias because they'll have all that listed as well.
Our Instagram, not our Twitter.
Instagram.
We forget about the Twitter a lot. So
I can relate. All right, so I think it's time to talk about a movie. How do you guys feel about that?
Let's do it.
Tonight, in true Franco Mania fashion, we're going to be discussing Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein. In this gothic nightmare, Dr. Seward makes his way up this misty mountain to Dracula's castle with the goal of freeing his village from the vampire count and his bride. In a unique take on traditional lore, these vampires actually transform into dead bats when staked instead of disintegrating. Meanwhile, Dr. Frankenstein is determined to reanimate his monster and bring back Dracula as an instrument of his will, the first in an army of the undead to aid him in his quest for power. And it all falls on the courageous Dr. Seward to stop the evil plan. Kind of had to take some liberties with that plot because there's not a whole lot to go off of.
I was going to say,
honestly, I was impressed by that.
Yeah.
It took me like 30 minutes to write that because wasn't much to go off. But
we've done that one twice.
The Blu-ray's available at severinfilms.com. That's it. Goodbye.
I mean, honestly, that's better than what people reacted when we showed it in Seattle to like a pretty near sellout audience. I mean, everyone was like, loved it. Can't make heads or tails of what happened in the movie, but I loved it.
And then usually what I do is what I'm going to do next is I usually try to add some historical context, but there's not a lot of information out there about it, so I did the best I could. So, inspired by Franco's passion for 1940s monster mashups, Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein showcases its unique subject matter in a style that only Jess Franco can deliver. With minimal dialogue, the film immerses viewers in lavish, erotic visuals and dense, tension-filled atmosphere, encapsulating all of Franco's hallmark Euro horror elements. It's not an easy thing to say when you have a speech impediment like me. The film's aesthetic draws inspiration from Hammer films, which revitalized the horror genre with its rich cinematography, striking color palettes, and daring reinterpretation of classic monsters. These films masterfully blend horror and camp, often highlighting violence and sexuality to captivate its audiences. The film stars Dennis Price, Howard Vernon, Alberto Dalbis, Luis Barbu, and Genevieve Robert as Amira the Gypsy. The film features widescreen cinematography by Jose Clement and score by Bruno Nicolai. Written by Paul Dielis and Jess Franco, and based on characters created by Mary Shelley and Bram Stoker. Directed by Jess Franco from 1972, this is Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein.
Del black horror, dell'orrore nero. Un urlo agghiacciante risuona in una notte di plenilunio. Ombre sinistre strisciano dalle viscere della terra. Nella notte, squarciata dai lampi, si scoperchiano le tombe. Escono le anime nere dei morti viventi. Una livida coltre di orrore sembra ricoprire la terra. Un esercito terrificante, avido di sangue, si scatena contro l'umanità. Arrivano i maestri del black horror, dell'orrore nero. Arrivano! Ah! Sono tra noi!
So, this entire episode came to me because I had some Severin titles sitting on the shelf. I knew I wanted to have Matt on again. And Matt was like, well, what do you got? And I sent him the list of what I haven't watched yet. And just like, without even thinking about it, he's like, we're going to do Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein. I'm going to have the Oscarbate guys on. And
yeah, I look out for my crew. That's right.
Bless you. Bless you.
And it all happened because I had Matt on earlier this season. So this is my 8th year doing this podcast.
Wow.
And I had Matt on, and we talked about Dracula versus Frankenstein, the Al Adamson film. And you had announced at that time that Severin was releasing this film, and I had told you that I have actually never seen a Jess Franco movie. So
we're still talking, so it's okay. Like you did,
yeah.
It didn't break our relationship, Michael.
The whole point of this show is to admit that everyone's got blind spots.
That's right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you are passionate. So this was my first Jess Franco film, not knowing what I was getting involved in. So let's talk about, since I don't have a lot of personal history with this film, let's talk about your personal histories with this film. Where does this fall for you guys? And when did you, like, in your favorites of Franco, and when did you first see this?
So this was a movie that gets confused for Dracula versus Frankenstein.
That's how it came up, yep.
Frankenstein. So we talked about that as well. So I had seen Al Adamson's Dracula versus Frankenstein at some time in the 90s, probably the first time I saw it. And I looked for a title to order, and I ordered Dracula versus Frankenstein at the video store, and Dracula Prisoner of Frankenstein came, but it was under the title Dracula versus Frankenstein. And I watched it.
Fair.
Yeah, and I watched it, and I said, this is not what I wanted. And there's definitely no, Amazon return during that time, and you paid like $79.99 for a video.
So you were stuck with it.
You're gonna try and rent it out, and if it didn't sell or rent, then you were stuck with that movie. So I was stuck with this movie. Didn't like it at first, probably because it was not the movie I expected. But that was my first introduction to this movie. First introduction to Jess Franco was Vampiros Lesbos, surprisingly enough, but that was my first introduction to Jess Franco.
Yeah, we saw this. This was an early one, I think we saw, because there was a German Blu-ray that was available for a long time that did the best it could with the elements it had, and pretty hazy, but this was one that definitely sparked our interest, because obviously the Dracula versus Frankenstein thing, you think of it like that, it almost kind of obliterates like it's being, because Dracula versus Frankenstein has been out for a long time.
That's the one that came to the rental store, was exactly what we were talking about. So,
and now it's like, now it's out. For the first time ever, there's a U.S. Blu-ray of Dracula Prisoner of Frankenstein. So, it felt like a movie that we dreamt up. Sometimes it still feels like that, because it's like, I'm big fan of the Universal monster movies, and clearly Jess is too. And I think even more so those cheaper 40s ones that came after the prestigious 30s period, and I'm talking like post Son of Frankenstein, so like Ghost of Frankenstein, Dracula, or House of Frankenstein, Werewolf, Frankenstein meets the Wolf Man, whatever, all that stuff. House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula specifically are like, I think, a huge influence on this, because not only is he like, he's giving those plots and those kind of cheaper, less talked about titles, or less loved titles, I think, more of a chance to like find an expressionist outlet, because he's not copying the styles of those movies. He's clearly digging into like the 20s. The movie has a very silent film aesthetic.
Yeah, I think I read there's only like maybe 40 words said through the entire movie.
Which is fine, because that music is fucking fantastic. So it's
by the great Bruno Nicolai. He was
Bruno Nicolai is fucking amazing.
Yeah, he was Ennio Morricone's apprentice. He had his hands on a lot of things. Worked with another guy, Alessandro Alessandrini, a lot, who was the guy who famously did the whistling for Sergio Leone's Dollars movies. So like, this movie does have a lot of heavyweights working on it, and it's such a fever dream of a movie that if you're in the right context, like it moves and feels like nothing else that's come before it. And
it's why it plays well in the theater, is the music and the atmosphere and the way that it's set up. It makes it play well in the theater. Will, when's the first time you saw this?
I got into Franco at the very beginning of college, so that would have been 2006, 2007-ish. And at the time, there were DVDs and shit you could get, and I got all of those. But once I burned through those, I started buying bootlegs. And I bought a bootleg VHS tape of this from this dude, Pimpadelic Wonderland was his name. And
That's a great name.
Yeah, I bought a VHS from him, and it was, if you read Thrower's book, you talk about the shitty alternate cut of this movie that exists. And that's what I saw first, where there is this stupid, useless voiceover narration that really ruins the magic of the movie. And that's what I saw first. And at the time, I was not a Franco head at this point. I was just interested, and I liked it enough to keep going. But I remember watching that one, and I liked it, but I was like, I don't know, whatever. I guess I'll come back to it someday. And then years later, when that German Blu-ray came out, I was like, all right, I'll give it another look, and turned it on, and it started, and there was no voiceover narration, and I was floored. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh no, shit, no, this is a top tier Franco now. And like John said, even better now that Severin did the legwork with this new one to really complete it, because Severin's also has a couple extra seconds of things that were not there in all the others. But yeah, so it was in that time, and I kind of dug it, but I never planned to rewatch it again. And then all these years later, now I would personally put it in my gun to my head, probably top 25 Francos. I would say it's in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
and it's just for that beginning alone.
Yeah, the beginning is great.
And I know, Michael, you ask us our favorite parts or whatever, or our
it's
thing. So I'll save my stuff for later. But it's the first 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
So for me, like I said, this was my first foray into the world of Franco, and I didn't quite know what to expect out of it, because Jess Franco is one of those filmmakers that I've been very familiar with in terms of reputation, and I've read a lot of books, so I've read about what his films are like, and I went in with a certain expectation because I'm very familiar with his what I've read about his sexploitation career, and it's this movie kind of rides this very interesting line where it feels like it has 1 foot in the exploitation genre and then 1 foot in the art house.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch the way that he kind of plays with both. And the fact that it is almost a silent film, like you have some journal narration from Dr. Seward later on in the movie, and which kind of actually works for, consider it's a Dracula and Frankenstein movie, because that's how a lot of those books are depicted, is just through journal entries.
Yeah.
But I was actually kind of surprised. At first, I kind of felt like Matt did when he first saw it. I didn't know if I liked it when I first finished it. I was like, well, that was interesting. There was things I liked about it. But I just watched it a couple days ago, and I'm still thinking about it. There's shots that really stuck with me. And I'm already like, shit, I need to go watch that again. And then I just want to delve more into his filmography. So
watch it when you go to bed.
Yeah.
Fall asleep. Keep it on. That title screensaver home screen is terrifying. So just wake. I'll do it. I'm serious. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because I actually have it. I have it in the player. I have it in the player up in my bedroom, because I was watching that 50-minute Stephen Thrower interview that's on the disc, and I started watching I think it's part 10 of In the Land of Franco, which I now need to buy the other Franco disc just so I can watch the entire fucking
watch the movie and count how many times a scene changes or zooms in really quickly and unnecessarily. Just count all that as you're watching. Pay attention to it for sure.
As a fan of just unnecessary crash zooms, that brought me so much joy by all the times that they would do these crazy zooms. Yeah. So like I said, I'm kind of treating you guys as the Franco experts, because I don't know much about him. What can you talk about? What types? So I think Stephen Thrower said he had made 4 or 5 movies the year that this came out. This was 1972. Mm-hmm. What else was he making around this time? Was he doing similar types of films, or was he all over at this time?
Yeah, I mean, he was doing all types of films. I mean, so to situate where this film comes in his filmography is kind of important, because there's a lot of history that pushes it up to where it is.
Yeah, I love context. Let's do it.
Yeah, so like Franco being the premier filmmaker of kind of Spain's entire horror boom. I mean, the story goes that he was making a film called The Awful Dr. Orloff around the time that a very famous Criterion-approved French film, Eyes Without a Face, came out. And a lot of people like to say, oh, he ripped that movie off. Well, as we went through the production history, there's actually virtually no way he could have ripped it off. They were literally shooting them at the same time.
So it's just one of those zeitgeist moments in film history.
I mean, there was a lot of pulpy novels about scientists doing things, and there was certainly all those Monogram PRC films with Bela Lugosi that deal with some similar subject matter. But I guess it was after Franco went and saw Terence Fisher's The Brides of Dracula in a theater that he was like, oh, I should start making horror movies. So his interest in horror starts with trying to emulate a Dracula movie. What's even more fascinating is a couple years before that, in the early 50s or late 50s, we discovered that he put in the first horror scene of a Spanish production in a film he did called We Are 18 Years Old. And it's an episodic film, but there's a part where people find themselves in a kind of barren blood style situation inside of a castle. It's played for comic effect, but it's still, an influence of gothic horror already starting to bloom. So by the time Awful Dr. Orloff's a hit and Diabolical Dr. Z is a hit, he gets a chance with the producer Harry Alan Towers to make the film Count Dracula with Christopher Lee. Now, this was supposed to be, as Jess likes to say, the most faithful adaptation of Dracula ever. You'll never find a more faithful adaptation. Couldn't be anything but. And that's probably because of working with Harry Alan Towers, who absconded with a lot of the budgets a lot of the time and just misused things and held up production. So that's why I was saying earlier where Count Dracula is so fascinating, because it looks better in context later, but you can see why it was such a fraught production when you watch it. It's like it's trying to have its feet in two different worlds without able to cross them over in any way. There's no fusion. So he kind of spent those years post that trying to work on getting back to this idea of Dracula he wanted to do. And you mentioned the diary readings, and the letters, which is all of the Bram Stoker books. So there's an element that found its way in there. Probably the less dialogue was something he wanted to do. I mean, Vampiros Lesbos is a reimagining of Dracula. Mm-hmm. It's the same story basically, but he's clearly having fun poking a stick at these notions of vampirism. I mean, he has the main character sunbathing, when it starts, and her coffin is a swimming pool. So he was clearly burnt to some degree by this, and he did spend the rest of his life either lampooning Dracula in a sardonic way, maybe not in a hateful way, but he definitely let the cartoonishness of it, the kind of Italian comic book feel of it, take over when he realized maybe he wouldn't get to make the ultimate Count Dracula. So it's really interesting how the reverberations of that found its way through the rest of his career. And I think if we're just looking at how stylistically and artistically he wanted it to look, probably Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein is the closest we'll get to that.
Yep.
Wow, that's beautifully said.
Thank you.
It's also interesting to just
John Dickson blowing minds. Yeah, so, boy.
How big of at this time in Franco's career, did he have a lot of international appeal yet? Had he started transitioning over? Because that was my first thought when I noticed how little dialogue was in the film. I thought it might have been a method to hide the fact that it was an international production. Have as little dialogue as possible, so that way you could show it to an American audience, they won't think they're watching a foreign film. But just looking at his two top billed actors, Dennis Price, who, while an English actor, was a very respectable actor of stage and screen. And then, Howard Vernon had worked with huge names throughout his career. And while I believe that this was probably around when his career started declining a little bit, it's just it's interesting to watch the cast that he's pulling in, and this kind of mixture of highly regarded stage and screen actors, along with lesser known talent in Spain, models, and kind of whoever he can get. So I was just curious, like, what his international appeal was at this time.
It was actually pretty solid. As John said, Awful Dr. Orloff and Diabolical Dr. Z were very big hits, not just in Spain.
And with Howard Vernon in the role of Awful Dr. Orloff, he basically made Howard Vernon a kind of an international star.
Yeah. But you combine those things, and his films are already being dubbed in many different languages at this point, because as with many European, filmmakers, they're shooting in whatever the fuck language everyone is speaking. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're not recording the sound, on set. They're doing it later so that they can do those things cheaply. But yeah, when you combine that with the love that he got from Orson Welles and working with him on Chimes at Midnight, he actually at this time still had a pretty solid reputation, and especially amongst those kinds of people, because Orson Welles and Fritz Lang and all these different people are going to bat for him, and he has these different stars. It is working.
So wait, Jess Franco was getting. Orson Welles was going to bat for Jess Franco. I just want to make sure I understood.
He had Jess shoot the entire battle sequence of Chimes at Midnight.
Oh, really?
That whole infamous sequence that influenced Saving Private Ryan is actually the invention of Jess Franco, which is pretty cool. I mean, I think if you were a person who knew his stuff, like if you were in the know, like I know Fritz Lang said Succubus was one of the greatest films he'd seen in a long time, which is incredible. He should have put that on every fucking poster he had.
I would have.
Right? But he still had to change his name was not on all of these movies as the director. Mm-hmm. I mean, the name would change constantly from like Clifford Brown to
A.M. Frank.
A.M. Frank. I mean, like there were, if you were a filmmaker, you probably knew him. If you worked at AIP and you were Roger Corman, you picked up Venus and Furs for American distribution to make it look groovy. You knew that, but like, I don't know how much on a wide public scale his name was a draw, especially given that his name was never really the director on all of these movies. And that could have been for, I'm assuming, tax money reasons. He was, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and he was taking some money from one production and nestling it away for another production. And, his career is tough because it's very thorny in terms of its like the legality of his name on these things. And like, so I don't know if he ever really was like a household name probably until like the 80s.
Yeah. The movie itself made its way into some drive-ins and things, and it made its way into some grindhouse theaters in the US, but it wasn't known for like a Franco movie or anybody was like, going to see
so
that.
He never really hit the level of I would say different country, but he never really got to that level of say like Argento or Fulci where he was that well known.
No. I mean,
no.
And that's like,
and there's probably what cut they had, and the name may not have even been on there. It may have just been Dracula
for years,
Frankenstein, and then show it.
Yeah, they had no idea he shot all these movies, probably. So, and Jess didn't seem to care. I don't think
he was making 20 other movies. He already moved on.
His legacy probably was an afterthought. I think he lived in a freewheeling kind of like automatic writing sense. Like it was just, I do it, I live it, I sleep and smoke cigarettes. That's really about it. And a cool thing in the Stephen Thrower book is there's a part where he mentions how he got access to a briefcase that Jess had when we do not have enough time to listen to a podcast. We want to hear about this story, but there was an event where Jess left the middle of a production with his actress and soon-to-be wife and co-writer Lena Romay. They disappeared in the middle of the night from their hotel room. No one knows what happened to them. I think you get it. You can figure it out. I'm guessing legal things were afoot, but they got away in the middle of the night. No one could find them, but they left a suitcase. And inside the suitcase was a bunch of ideas Franco had for other movies. So clearly he was just constantly like jotting down ideas. Like, you know, I mean, he had something, probably a softcore Dracula movie that was in there, something called Yakula. Really has gotten our interest is what the fuck is Yakula?
Yeah. And it's in true Jess fashion, it's also wonderfully hard to pull it all apart because technically also female vampire in some countries was called Yakula, but this is also around both after and before that. So it's that amazing thing where we probably will never know, but was there another movie called Yakula, or is that just
I mean, hell, there was a sketch for an idea that would have even been more of this like monster mashup. There was something in there that talked about how there was a Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera team up movie that just never materialized. And, you know, I think like he couldn't stop. And I don't think you could ever stop him. His nights were cigarettes and aperitif and just writing down ideas constantly until he woke up to do them again. I don't know too many filmmakers like that. I mean, maybe Jean-Luc Godard, who he emulated a lot, really looked up to. I mean, that's the only person I can think just constantly is moving on to the next thing. They're not, once they're done with it, they're done with it. They could care less what happens next.
Yep.
So you said something earlier that kind of struck me as interesting, where you said, obviously you don't know, you're just going off of you know, what you've read about him, but you kind of mentioned that you know, he didn't really think much about his legacy. He thought about that secondary. It was really, for him, it was the work. And it's interesting that he had so many influences who looked highly upon him and contemporaries that looked highly upon him. You know, someone like Orson Welles or Fritz Lang, you said, who are definitely artists within the world of filmmaking. Do you know how Franco viewed himself? Did he view himself as an artist, or was he just, hey, I'm just here to make some fucking movies and make a little bit of money? Like, where did he fall? Because watching this movie, there's a lot of artistry to it. And I don't think it's unintentional artistry. He doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have a lot of time, but he's trying to make the best movie he can afford to do.
I probably saw himself as an artist. I don't think he was like a John Ford, Raoul Walsh type that's like, I'm a workman and I'm just here to work. Like, maybe, I mean, he's so cagey about his real feelings about things in interviews. It's so hard to know.
Notorious liar. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to say. Maybe in the 80s, because the 80s is when he really seemed to like care that he was shooting hardcore movies, and I think he made sure that his name was not on those, or else
that's interesting.
Or else his wife's name would be on those. Under
you take the credit.
Yeah, but not even a real name. Candy Coster was what they put it on.
Lulu Laverne is the hardcore ones. Candy
Laverne, yeah, Candy. Yeah, she would. I mean, sometimes he would take his names off things for his wife's benefit. We don't know exactly the reasons, but there was some sort of legality of getting her director credits so that he was sure that he was going to die first. So he wanted to make sure that she had, you know, money saved away from being able to, you know, fill whatever like union quotas or something for Spain. I don't know, but he made sure that like he wasn't precious about having his name on there, I guess, is the only answer we can come to. But yeah, the 80s is the only time where you see him actually trying to maybe think about his legacy, because he makes a film called Revenge in the House of Usher, which had a couple different titles, but he tried to premiere this film at Cannes. Now, this is a film that is taking the early 80s when the slasher is like on the rise, And he is trying to go back to his early days of gothic horror with this movie. I mean, it's shot with the most, I mean, it would make Orson Welles blush, the kind of angles that he's shooting from this whole movie. It's gorgeous, but he entered it at Cannes. And I do not think a man who is unconcerned with his legacy as an artist would ever go through the trouble of trying to do that. But he did do it, and it was horribly received. Like, horribly received. So much so that it got kind of recut over the next, 5 or 6 years. And I think that's another instance that burned him through the rest of his life. I think he really felt like, I'm grappling with my legacy as a gothic, as kind of a pioneer of the gothic horror film, and I want to do it again with this character played by Howard Vernon, who comes to encapsulate Dracula, the Dr. Orloff. I mean, Dr. Seward, who we're talking about right now, makes his appearance in Revenge in the House of Usher. So these were the movies that I think he cared the most about. And, that's really all we have to go on. So I do think maybe on some level he considered himself an artist, but you had to catch him on the right day, I guess.
And that leads to Severin's kind of involvement in Jess Franco and the friendship that David Gregory formed with Jess Franco before he passed, and keeping his movies and promising to put them out and release them so people can, celebrate them and have physical copies of them. So getting Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein out on Blu-ray and having all the wonderful stuff that's on there, keeps his legacy alive, So even if he didn't view himself as an artist, God damn it, he's an artist, right? We're talking about him. Mm-hmm. We're celebrating him. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's just the viewpoint of him, it's so strange because we talk about it and there's so many different viewpoints of being a fan of horror, being, a genre fan, you can be very smart and talk about it and discuss it and analyze it. And then there's the dirtbag part of just watching it and just, because there's nakedness, there's nudity,
There's blood and violence. So something fun. Yeah.
Well, and he never really, I mean, that's the thing. Nudity was how he got these movies sold. That's how he got these crazy ideas off the ground
Absolutely.
I mean, he didn't seem to care for when he had to do hardcore. Like a lot of those filmmakers, like Joe D'Amato, they totally were just like, fuck, I got to make hardcore now. But,
Except for Rihanna.
Except Doria, yeah, he did make one porno that is beautiful, artistic movie. But, I think weirdly Blood and Violence was the one thing I don't think he cared about. I think he liked violence, but gore was never, he does get falsely put into that category a lot, even though Bloody Moon has a very infamously gory scene that's incredibly artificial. And, I mean, the goriest thing we've ever found was probably Jack the Ripper, when he dismembers his wife Lena Romay when they were, and which could be an interesting commentary because they were both going through divorces with their separate partners at that time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, we left it out. We left it out. That's a fun little detail about this, ragtag group of people who are making movies. The way Lena and Jess met is because her husband at the time was working as a set photographer on Franco movies. And they met each other, and then Jess and Lena, absconded together, decided they were going to be together. Jess is getting divorced from Nicole Franco. Lena's getting divorced from him. Not only did they then get together, but that guy still stuck around and kept working on Franco movies.
Yeah, he just liked working with him, I guess.
Hey,
they were just a swinging. I think they were a swinging bunch of weirdos who were like, yeah, 10 of us are going to make, 50 movies together in the next 8 years. So it's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that
the way Franco showed. I'm sorry, John, what was that?
I just mentioned that he's like, oh, good. I got cuckolded by Jess Franco. I mean, there's worse ways to get cucked, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he showcases these women, and they were his muse, and they influenced him, and it was so much close up of their nakedness, and it was just, I mean, that's beautiful upon itself, regardless of the relationships or what was taking place, the fact that it's on film, right? And it was put into movies, So that's the glory part of it.
Matt, I want to touch on something, I think it was something that John said about how, blood and violence is not really the thing he had interest in. But the thing I always, even before I saw Jess Franco movie, the one thing I knew about him was like the tantalizing side of his career. And while this is the only film I've seen thus far, it is interesting how, even though there is nudity, it never feels exploitative. It always feels like there's a kind of a soft hand to the way that he presents it. It's like, yes, this nudity or sexualness is going to be what sells my movie, but doesn't mean I need to be grotesque about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I often forget that there's nudity in his movies. Like
I don't.
Well, that's a personal thing with Matt, but I don't know. It's funny. Like, we showed one in New York called Les Gloutonniers, a very, very rare film. And honestly, what I remember that is just, it's like the mood, the way things move, the way sound and the trees and this kind of hypnotic atmosphere. And then you forget, it's like, oh, I guess it is wall to wall with nudity, but it not that it becomes invisible, but it becomes second nature to what's,
you get lost in the world that he's presenting to you.
Right. And you do see how he's able to weave that in a way that is conducive to probably how he wanted to present it without sacrificing his own artistic merits. Like, he's like, I'm doing what the producers want, but he just has a way of doing it that, isn't exactly like, it doesn't feel leering. It feels kind of like something like truly fantastical about it. Like, it all just figures into his imaginative play box.
Yeah. There's something off about it a little bit in a Franco way, that it's not like super sexy. Like, none of this stuff is super sexy.
Yep.
John Waters, when John Waters films a sex scene, every sex scene is ridiculous, Mm-hmm. And I think Franco kind of had that little bit of ridiculousness in his sex scenes because maybe his view of sex or how he viewed, I don't know, but I think that was his kind of like stylization. Selling foreign filmmakers to people from that don't know a lot about him, working at Severin, working at the table and doing pop-ups. It's always like, well, Fulci's known for gore sequences, Argento's known for his cinematography. Franco's known for nudity. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like you talk about that and discuss that, but it is always in a way that's, you'll see some stuff, but is it as shocking or crazy as what you'd see in a hardcore porno, or something like that. So to me, that's what I love. I'm sorry, Will.
Yep. No, I was just going to say, I think part of the magic of that, what we're circling around that I love, is that, again, this is such a tight group of individuals making these films, right? It's not the kind of situation where often with Eurocult films, right, you have the conversation of whether it's a filmmaker or a producer or someone else involved who's definitely taking advantage of people and tricking people and all that shit, whatever, truly exploiting people to get these salacious scenes. With Franco, that's not the case at all, because he didn't work with anyone that was not on the same page and that was not interested in the same things. And so all of these people are very much interested in exactly what they're doing. And I think that's why the nudity and the sex and all that stuff feels so unique and so different as compared to a lot of European films that were happening at the time, because everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. And there's probably someone listening to this who's like, what the fuck are they talking about? How many times does he zoom in on a hairy vagina?
Yeah, but in a loving way.
But what I was going to say is, it's like, sure, he's zooming.
That's the ridiculousness. That's the ridiculous part of it. It makes it ridiculous because it is so long. It is such why would we be watching this? Why do we have to watch it? And that's what makes it ridiculous.
He's more fascinated with the female body. He's not right. He's not He's,
that was going to be my next point, whereas it's not showcasing it in a way that's exploiting it in a way where it would be we're seeing too much. It's exploiting the woman, or this is what's taking place. It's beautifully done.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this might be a stretch, but it does make me think of the famous painting, The Origin of the World by Gustave Courbet, that I do think about that when I see it. It's like, there's more of a tantalizing question to why he's shooting it and his fascination. And the thing, if we're talking about sex in him, one of the biggest things with his movies is kind of where desire comes from. And films like Shining Sex, I mean, almost all of them kind of like Macumba, Vampiros Lesbos.
Knights of Linda?
Where's this foreign alien desire of sex or of lust come from? He views it kind of as, sometimes an extraterrestrial or supernatural thing that can just overtake a person and make them act outside of their normalcy, their normal behavior. And I think that's really interesting because not many people are really trying to grapple with what our desires are. And sure, maybe he doesn't go as deep as some Polish filmmakers, but he's constantly like returning to this idea of where this all comes from and what drives us. And that's bold. That's a bold artistic choice.
Definitely. And one thing I've been thinking about since we've been having this conversation, and kind of we're talking less about what the movie is, because like I said during my intro, there's not a whole lot to delve into when it comes to plot. This is definitely a movie where you either are cool with the vibes or you're not. But one thing that I was kind of struck with as I've been thinking about it is, and it's kind of touches on something we've been talking about as well, is even when there is something kind of goofy in these movies, it doesn't feel out of pocket, because there's an old expression that I would sometimes hear. I don't know if you guys are pro wrestling fans, but some of the old school pro wrestlers used to talk about the key to being a bad guy wrestler is you have to believe everything you're doing is truth. And there's an element of that to Jess Franco's work, where everything he's showing on screen, he believes in this world. So even something as goofy as some of Howard Vernon's performance choices, when he's like in his weird catatonic state, or when he's just like fucking rat boy sucking on someone's neck, it doesn't feel like a comedy beat.
No,
it's presented in a serious fashion, even though it's fucking goofy as shit, but in a fun way.
It feels like a bad nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, he's really good at, I think, getting at the feel of not even the nightmares you have in the middle of the night, the kind of nightmare you have when you've like woken up already and you're like, let me just get like 2 more hours of sleep. The sun's coming up.
Oh, those are the weirdest nightmares. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where he comes from.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one thing we kind of, it was hinted at the beginning of this episode is, I think everyone has pretty much said this is the most complete version of this film that exists. So this also might be something that, Matt, you could touch on coming from Severin. What's the story behind that? Why was this film so notoriously cut up? And like, I think I remember reading on the back of the Severin box that they had to use elements from like a German print, a French print, multiple versions to kind of put enough Frankenstein this movie together. And it's extremely seamless the way it came together. So I don't know, Matt, if you want to talk a little bit about what you know about how this was for Severin and David Gregory to put together and why it was so hard.
Yeah, so I don't know the particulars for this one per se, but the process of Severin and how Severin, when they obtained the rights to distribute a movie, it goes as follows. Whatever print elements are available, we'll use that and run it through, quality control to do that. With this, yes, we did piece some stuff together because we had that. The original one the elements that they had for the one that has the extra minutes in it was too ill repaired to kind of like do that one. So they had to run through with other elements to add it together. So just like Franco pieced his movies together, we were able to, like you said, Dr. Frankenstein this one up and get that one together. So once it goes through and we get the elements or we get the movie, sometimes we obtain the rights to movies and we don't have an element for it and we have to go on a hunt. So, people are searching and we know people, and we have like networks, with people who have libraries of films, so yeah. And then we've released a lot of Franco movies already, and are planning on releasing more. So it just made sense to get it onto a Blu-ray release, with the slipcover and all the special features and all that. So,
well, and if I can be nerdy for a second too, just
please
do, William.
The history of this movie. So this movie actually also did play at Cannes. Technically, it was in the marketplace because it was trying to be sold, but this movie did play at Cannes, and then basically after that, we don't see shit for a long time, right? And then there was home video releases. There's Spain, there's Germany, there's other stuff. But the bootleg that I mentioned earlier that I bought at the beginning of college, the only way to see the film properly framed was a Japanese bootleg that still had an actually scope, so proper 2.351, because everything else had chopped it, down to a flat aspect ratio and killed all those beautiful shots that we've been talking about. So yeah, it was quite a long journey. And the first time I saw someone try to piece it together, they had ripped the Japanese VHS and the Spanish and the German releases and tried to put together, this complete version, which is what we were stuck watching for a long time until we finally get to this point. But, it's a weird one where it's really been a long road of mysterious versions popping up. It often happens too with Franco for some reason. They pop up in Asia sometimes where we get the most complete, like before Severin did Shining Sex. The only way you could see the whole movie, even though it was blurred because of legality, was also a Japanese VHS. So seemingly at some point in the 80s, Franco had a bit of a hold in Japan.
Yeah.
This has to be a weird movie to try to put together because you don't have many story elements to try to guide where things go.
Yeah. And I will also say what's rare about this movie is the 2.35 aspect ratio. Not a common frame used in his filmography. I mean, the only other one
was scope lenses were expensive, so
they were expensive. Yeah, I mean, there's Devil's Island Lovers is the only one that seems to have, I think, that much of a wide composition. I don't know. I can't think of too many others. I mean, most of them are like 1.85, 1.66.
I mean, Macumba also wide.
Well, 1.66 makes sense. That's the European widescreen, so that makes sense. But yeah, that was actually the thing I noticed.
Normally, Will loves to point out little ticky-tacky things, and that's
hey, I'm just saying he did a lot of scope movies too.
What I said was he doesn't do it a lot.
Well,
it was very rare.
It's interesting too because normally scope aspect ratio is not something you see on lower budget movies because it's an expensive process.
My guess is he probably had the equipment for, I don't know, either he had the equipment to shoot Devil Island Lovers or he had the equipment to shoot this and used it to shoot the other one. I mean, who knows? Like, this movie just didn't have like a, it's not like it really made the rounds. It wasn't like seen as like, we're going to make money off this. So it's mysterious how that he got with such a, very expensive wide frame.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask before we start wrapping up. So this to kind of match William your nerdiness, I have a fascination with movies that have different language tracks, especially because as we were talking about before, a lot of these European films weren't shot with sync sound, and whatever language the lead actor spoke is what they spoke. You usually wait for their acting partner to stop talking so they can hit their next line. Especially a movie like what is your preferred? Like, do you have a preferred language track on this, or any of the Franco films that have multiples? Like, usually my personal rule is whatever the native language of the lead actor is the language track that I choose. I don't know why. That's just what I've decided to do. And I just watched this one in English with the English dub. I'm curious, like, how do you decide, and do you have a favorite language track for any of his movies? I don't know. This is a really nerdy question, but there's not many people can ask this
all nerd questions go to
your
Will.
Favorite language, Will. Tell us your favorite dialect.
Yeah.
Well, the rule always is I will first watch whatever the film first premiered with the filmmakers in person at, which in this case,
how the fuck do you find that?
You go Go back to your freaking books and look at all these language tracks again.
Real quick. No, I'm going somewhere, I promise. That's my rule if I can find it, right? I do the same shit with, like, even for instance, like a fucking Giallo movie, even if it's clearly shot in English, if the filmmaker, when they had their premiere, wanted it to be in Italian with the subs, that's what I will watch first. But this movie is actually an amazing example, and to highlight the honestly needless work, in my opinion, but I appreciate it as a painful nerd, that Severin did on this release, because
that's
yeah.
something.
Yeah. So this one especially, because Severin made sure to include all of the possible language options, but what's important is they did the work to look up the fact that what was said is not the same across all of those. So if you watch the Spanish one, the subtitles are different than if you watch the German one, or if you watch. And I guess the answer, again, for an idiot like me is I have watched all versions of this movie that exist with those subtitles because it's technically a little bit different. I'll always go with whatever the original one was I can, but technically watching this one is 5 different versions, in my opinion, even if it's just slightly different.
That's if you're of this mindset persuasion, Will is 100% correct. In reality, these dialogue changes also do not change the plot. Names are different. Maybe you can tell there's a Wolfman coming based off.
What did we play at Davis?
We've done Spanish for both of our Dracula
for both of them. They've done Spanish
because we know that Jess was at Cannes playing it in Spanish at the premiere. That's what.
Yeah. Okay.
There are yes that do to give Will some credit here.
Yes.
Will Morris, ladies and gentlemen. Will.
But there's some that do change the plot based off of
absolutely.
Off of that.
I wasn't actually expecting to get such an in-depth answer for a question so nerdy, so I'm actually really stoked about that. I can't even tell you where I decided my way of doing it, but it's just where I watch whatever the native language of the lead, whoever I deem to be the lead character. That just seems to make the most sense for me, especially because, let's say in Italian films, it's not uncommon for the story to be about an American in Italy or something. So it's like, well, that makes sense to me. So I actually appreciate such an in-depth and nerdy answer because it was a really fucking nerdy question. All right. As I said in my original email to you guys, we do something on this show called our Thrill House moment. It's a reference to The Simpsons. It could be the moment that locked you in. It could be your favorite scene. It could be just whatever. You're just a moment in the film that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. And if you want me to start, I can.
You can go first. Yeah, hit it.
All right.
Go first.
For me, I have 2 of them. One of them, I feel like the first time we see Howard Vernon's character as Dracula, it's just kind of I think it's part of that opening 20 minutes, Matt, that you were talking about. It's just such a shocking portrayal of him, and he's fucking frightening.
Yeah.
So I loved that. That was just like, because like everyone's portrayal of the character of Dracula is always so wildly different. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that even though he's dressed to the nines, he's not really portrayed as like this suave vampire. He's like I said, he's like a feral rat boy in a tuxedo. And then I also just loved because any time that I would start getting lulled into a little moment of security, this movie would fucking change on me. So another one I like is just the inexplicable German dance, like a German music performance in the middle of the film that I was singing for the rest of the night. Like I said, this movie just throws curveballs. Like, near the end, they just had to throw a werewolf in. Like, it's just insanity. So I would say the either Howard Vernon's introduction or that little musical sequence, because that song was really catchy, even though I didn't understand the language. All right, let's go with you, John. Since you spoke first.
I mean, yeah, the Howard Vernon appearing with the lightning is, I mean, that's obviously the most striking image to kick this thing off. I mean, I like how the movie plays with its modernness and its ancient worldness. Like when they go to that bar and there's inexplicably items that are not period appropriate to the bar. And you could say, and it would be very easy to say, that it was just probably a rushed production design, like the set direct decorator was moving fast, blah, blah, blah. They maybe missed a few things. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, because when like Dr. Frankenstein and Morpho, his assistant, arrive in like a swinging, Rolls Royce or whatever the hell pulls up, there's something that like, I guess if we want to get not even Will nerdy, but like college textbook nerdy about it, like maybe he's saying something about Dr. Frankenstein representing some like sense of impeding modernity that you can't stop. Like it's going to keep coming and it's going to keep pushing. And this world of the monsters and gothic settings and castles and bats and cobwebs, those are all leaving us and they're going to be gone very soon. And they are. I mean, the gothic film has all but disappeared for the most part. I mean, Franco tried it again, didn't work out very well. I mean, I guess we have this new Nosferatu movie coming out, but like there are not too many movies that really pay close attention to like the gothic horror tradition. So I guess it's those moments like that that kind of like shock it, that make it hold a place between two poles of two different worlds.
I get that.
Matt?
All right.
The first 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
I love the specificness of that.
No,
4 minutes and 26
4 minutes and 26 seconds. You have a bell tolling, a horse clomping. You have kids running upstairs. You have the title over the castle on a mountain.
You got that
music
cat.
kicks in by Bruno Nicolai. Fog. You got some zoom in, zoom out, moving fog, which comes in and out of focus. You have a zoom in on buildings. You have an attic, clocks ticking, footsteps. You have a woman with a hood. You have screeching bats, a window, black cat, a dog barking, birds cawing, a horse neighing because it's scared. You have a fast close-up of a bell, but it's quiet. Out of the clock, inside, a flash of Dracula. You have a beautiful girl in white. It's open. She sits on her bed. She takes her boots off. Dances a little bit. There's perfume or lotion. She's being playful. The lights go out. You have Dracula. That's the first 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
Wow.
That is a beautiful tribute to movies that have come before in a Jess Franco way.
You could probably see I was smiling ear to ear to that the entire time, and you just reminded me why I love gothic horror so much.
Yes.
Man. That was beautiful.
Yes.
I mean, and clearly Franco's putting he's like, this is what idea of modernity. Like he's taking this modern idea of all these elements that Matt just said, and he's not trying to string them in a narrative way. He's not trying to take his time getting to this. He's just hitting you with audio that's layered on the soundtrack and building to this kind of like crescendo.
Yeah, when it starts out and it's just the bell, and then you hear the clomping and you start hearing sounds, the soundtrack for Bruno Nicolai doesn't even come in until a minute and something into it. So you've got this setup and this buildup that's like a beautiful tribute to the movies that came before, that were monster movies that we all fucking loved, right? So we see that, and that's what Franco did, I think, with this movie for sure. So buy the movie, okay? Go to severinfilms.com. Okay. Come to a convention. Come hang out and buy that movie.
Yeah. And truly also, just like Michael, this was Michael's first Franco movie, and honestly, I think this is an excellent first Franco movie.
For sure.
So if you haven't taken the dive, climb in on this one. It'll take care of you.
Yeah. Will, what's your moment?
Yeah, what's your moment?
My moment is it's a jump off from part of yours as far as the kids in that opening sequence, but my moment is something that's strung throughout the movie a couple times, and it's something that Franco rarely gets a chance to do because he's working with such small crews most of the time, and there are not other people around. Oftentimes they're working, in just a hotel room or on an island or a castle by themselves. In this movie, It's a couple moments, but there's a sequence especially when we get these close-ups of the locals. We just get hard close-ups of these weathered, beautiful, clearly like, working class at their luckiest faces that all inhabit this town that all of this is taking place in. And that stuff is what makes me so obsessed with this movie, because the use of those kids at the beginning and of the working class people watching her walk out of the castle before we do that pan and that John mentioned earlier where there's, a car that's covered in this supposedly old world land. The way that Franco uses faces that are found in this one happens almost never again in his entire career. It's a very rare moment, and I think it really grounds this movie in reality in a way that overwhelms me, I think, but in a positive way.
Perfect. All right. So last thing I'm going to ask you guys before I have you tell everyone where we can find you guys. I'm on the Severin website right now. What should I buy next to continue my Franco viewing?
Well, is Shining Sex still available?
Shining Sex is not available, but for your listeners, if you don't already have Vampiros Lesbos or She Killed in Ecstasy, those are some other Franco to get involved in. Some like sweet revenge stuff, and definitely
for you, Michael. Like for you, and obviously I don't actually know you, but based upon just this conversation, in my opinion, you're ready to skip the line a little. Like I'm thinking about that moment where you have a teacher where after class they're like, okay, I can't show this to everyone in class, but you should check this out.
You'll get it. Yeah.
That's how it feels. I think you're ready to just go straight to Macumba Sexual, honestly.
I was going to say Macumba, or if you want to keep in with this gothic thing and you want to jump off that, it's top 5 probably, and you'll, I'm sure, understand why. It's a film called Symphonia Erotica.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mansion of the Living Dead too. I got for sure.
Macumba. I got what was the last one?
Symphonic Erotica.
Symphonic. Okay.
Here, I'll put it in the chat. I'm putting it in the chat.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then I'll remember Vampiros Lesbos. You don't forget that fucking title.
Yes.
Mansion of the Living Dead.
Mansion of the Living Dead.
That's also one that's some really excellent gothic stuff, but we definitely tell folks to push it down the line if they're not ready yet. But again, I think I'm not worried about you.
All right, perfect. So, where can everyone find the Oscarbate podcast? Where can they find information about Francomania? Matt, where can they find you? Let's give your social medias, and then we'll be done.
I'm everywhere and nowhere at the same time, so you can find me around.
Perfect. Find them at a convention.
SeverinFilms.com events website. Coming up next for me, I will be in Buffalo at the end of the month. We are doing a pop-up at Black Dots in Buffalo. Trying to squeeze a Jess Franco movie in there just so we can get Buffalo. Maybe have like an audience vote, or people come through the pop-up vote through like 3 or 4 different titles. Whoever gets the most vote wins or something. I don't know, something fun. And then we have a screening, or at the screening room in Buffalo, we're showing Cemetery Man the 31st. And then after that, I'll be at Horror Hound Cincinnati the 13th through the 15th. We'll be vending there. So, yeah. And then Oscarbate, they've got their own thing going. They're always posting stuff on that. What's your social handles?
Oscarbate Pod, Will?
Yeah, Oscarbate. And also, if anyone, we have to do this now because we're officially like a business now, and we decided to sign our names in blood on this dumb fucking idea. But if you're trying to look up Oscarbate and spell it the way you should be, that's wrong. So Oscarbate, but spelled like masturbate, and then pod, Pod. That's our Instagram name. And then our, speaking of dumb ideas, our Twitter.
It's a reference to the band, the Christian nu metal band. It has nothing to do with the podcast.
Yeah. And then if you're on Twitter, similarly ridiculous, our handle is not Oscarbate, but it is @workhusband. So,
an old Twitter account of mine that we resuscitated to make the account.
I have to say, you clarifying that Oscarbate spelled like masturbate. I didn't know you guys before this, but I was talking to a work friend about the show that I'm doing today, and I was writing up my intro, and he looked over my shoulder and was like, "I think you spelled Oscarbate wrong." I was like, "No, I didn't." I don't even know you guys, but I was like, "I don't now. That's not wrong."
Thank you for seeing our brains through the spelling of that a little.
Pretty much. Like I listened to a couple episodes and then I saw the spell and I was like, okay, I get what these guys are about. For me, at this point, anyone listening to this show should know where to find me. I'm Viers102008 on Letterboxd. You can find me pretty much everywhere else. Shameless Picture Show. Find me on TikTok. I do physical media reviews and I talk about aspect ratios probably more than anyone else on that fucking platform.
Yes.
1:6:6 is my favorite aspect ratio all time, and I'll probably do a video explaining why.
Same.
Good.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you come back next time. Shame Play, Shameless Picture Show.
The Shameless Picture Show is recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Easton, Maryland, and is hosted and produced by Nick Richards and Michael Viers. Today's episode was edited by Michael Viers. Our opening theme music was written especially for us by The Directionals, with narration by Zach McLean. The end credit music you're enjoying at the moment was generously provided by my friends in the band 10 Speed. The Shameless graphic design is masterfully done by Amanda Viers. An extra special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters and to our generous sponsors. We are on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Google Play, and Libsyn. You can find links for all these amazing people in the description below.